Hello, welcome to the Rum Revival. It's Arminder, and we have yet another brand new rum from Alambique Serrano. This is their Años first edition. Now, if you're not familiar with the brand, they've been around for two plus years or so, something like that, and they primarily put out aged cane juice rums made by the Crassel family out in Oaxaca. And I've been a big fan of theirs for a while now, and so have a lot of other people. Now, up until now, their aged rums, which I have many of back over here, those have been released at cask strength, anywhere between like 55 to 70% ABV. And price-wise, they tend to be priced around $75 to like $110. So that means they're pretty high octane and not cheap. And their releases are fairly limited, right? Either they're single cask releases or they're small blends of anywhere between 400 to 700 bottles in total. Now, the Tres Años is trying to do something a little different. It's proofed down to 46.1% ABV. It's priced around $50. At least that's how much I paid for it. And it's their first evergreen aged release, meaning it should be consistently available, though there may be some batch-to-batch variation, hence why this one is labeled as the first edition. So, of course, the question that I had that you might have as well is, does this have the same great Alambique Serrano taste, but with only half the calories? Well, you're probably not asking that question specifically, but we'll get into all that. But first, let's get into the breakdown of this blend. So this is a blend of 12 casks of rum. All those rums are made from the Java sugarcane varietal. The cane juice is wild fermented in steel, and some of them in pine vats. Now, 82% of this blend consists of column still rums on what Alambique Serrano calls the Crassel still. Now, those rums are aged 38 months in new French oak. Now, the remaining 18% of the blend, those are all pot still rums aged 40 months, also in new French oak. The rums are then blended together and then proofed down to that 46.1% ABV. And those are the stats. Let's give this rum a try. So first things first, the aroma is undeniably Alambique Serrano, like no doubt in my mind. And the surprising thing is, given how robust the aroma is, I'd never imagined that it's proofed down to 46%. Like, to me, it has the same amount of like oomph to it in terms of the aroma as many of these cask strength releases do. So what exactly am I getting on the aroma? Well, I get a little bit of green pepper. And then baking spice wise, I get cinnamon and I get like cardamom. There's also a kind of caramel covered apple kind of thing happening here. And there is definitely a good amount of orange peel here as well. There's like a rich decadence here on the aroma, but also kind of simultaneously, there's like this little dangerous mix of some kind of muskiness and mustiness, which apparently are two separate things. I think I've only just recently kind of gotten hip to that, but yeah, those are two different things. And that combination, it's got this little power and a little bit of like danger to it, and it contrasts nicely with the kind of decadence of some of the more richer kind of aromas that I called out. All right, let's give it a taste. Cheers. So what I'm getting here are notes that are very similar to the aroma. There's a earthy cinnamon cardamom thing happening, maybe a little bit of nutmeg, and it's that same combination of spices that I've gotten in a few other Alambique Serrano rums. Now, underlying those spices is this very slight richness or baked good thing going on, so that's kind of the foundation for those spices to kind of sit on top of. And very importantly, there's this orange note here that's more than just like orange peel. There's maybe a bit of pith and maybe even like a little bit of flesh. And I know you probably should say like orange pulp instead of orange flesh. Flesh sounds kind of weird, but it's funner to say, so that's what I'm going with. Okay, I do like the flavors that are here, for sure. It very much has flavors that I've come to associate with many of their rums, but here's the thing. If you have any experience with their other rums, then there is one thing that is readily apparent and which you kind of notice right away from your very first sip of the rum. See, the thing is, the rum is missing some of those heavier, lower register kind of bass notes that are in some of their other rums. It's missing some of that texture, some of the full body, and that presence that I absolutely love and adore in those other rums. And sure, maybe it's to be expected given the lower proof and the more kind of column distillate that's in here. But as a sipper, I do miss that extra oomph, you know? I will say though that the more you drink it, the more you kind of get used to it and it becomes less noticeable. But again, I do miss that extra oomph. So here's where I land on this rum. If you already have a couple of Alambique Serrano rums and you only in general sip on rums and you don't really mix with them, then I don't know necessarily if you need this particular bottling. The flavor profile is similar to a couple of their blends, and with those you get that extra oomph that is always nice as a sipper. Now, if you're into sipping rums, but you've never bought an Alambique Serrano rum before because maybe you thought it was too expensive or you were turned off by the high ABV, but you're also curious about what all the fuss is around the brand, well then I think this is maybe the perfect affordable entry point. Now obviously affordable is relative, I understand that, but for around $50 you get a tasty rum and you'll be able to get a kind of pretty good sense, I think, of what the brand is all about. I think it's a great way of dipping your toes in the Alambique Serrano waters. Now whether you sip rums neat or not, or whether you already have some Alambique bottles or not, if you like making drinks at home, well that's when things get really interesting. So for me, their blends and single cast releases sometimes feel a bit unruly in cocktails. Given their high ABV and their intensity, they can really dominate a drink, kind of leaving it unbalanced. Now looking at their marketing, the brand hasn't really kind of overtly positioned this release as a cocktail rum, but based on the ABV, the price, and its year-round nature, that's where my mind kind of immediately went. So the first thing I did was try it in a daiquiri, like you do, and it was good. It didn't blow me away, but I liked it. Then I tried it in an old-fashioned, and it was very good. Like I used some Demerara gum syrup, and that added back in some of the body and heft that I felt like the rum was missing in comparison to the higher proof bottlings. And then, because I've been on a bit of a Mai Tai kick lately, I made a Mai Tai with the rum, and it was also very good. Like it had this really nice juicy orange quality to it that was accented with a bit of almond and just like the slightest warm baking spice note. But to me, the real highlight was that interplay between the orange notes of the rum and the orange curacao. And that got me thinking, was there another cocktail out there that I could make that leaned heavier in that interplay of that orange and orange? So I looked around at a bunch of different cocktail options, and the French oak aging of the rum kind of made me think of cognac. And then when I thought of cognac, I thought of the sidecar. So I made a sidecar with the rum, but not just any old sidecar. I follow the specs from Joaquin Simo's sidecar recipe, but obviously I subbed in the rum for the cognac, and it was maybe the best damn sidecar I've ever had. Now, to be fair, I haven't had tons of sidecars, and the ones I've had haven't really blown me away, but this, in a sidecar, was truly amazing. Now that combination of orange notes of the rum and the curacao came together to create this kind of multifaceted, bright and dark orange citrus flavor that's ever so slightly accented by this kind of lovely melange of warm baking spices. It's so flavorful and so crushable at the same time. So for me personally, because I have so many Alambique Serrano rums already, the blends and a few single cast releases, I don't think I'm going to really be sipping this rum neat. All of those kind of scratch that itch for me. But what this does that I don't think that those do is that it gives me the character and quality of Alambique Serrano, but in a much more plays well with others manner. Now I'm absolutely going to be crushing this rum in sidecars this whole summer. In fact, summer 2025 should now just be known as Sidecar Summer. You've heard it here first, folks. Well, that's it for me, and those are my thoughts on this rum. I do hope you get to try it, and I hope you really get to try it in some cocktails where I think it really shines. And if you want to support this channel, then check out my Patreon page where you get access to some exclusive content. And if you sign up for one of the paid tiers, you get access to the Rum Revival Discord server where you can chat with other rum lovers about rum. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch y'all next time. Cheers.